Curtis Calhoun here with MMA News, and my next guest has another big fight coming up at the Bubba Jenkins Trilogy 2023 PFL Championships. It's Chris Wade joining me again today. How's it going, Chris?
Going on, Curtis? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's always great to talk to you. Obviously, there's a lot to talk to you about with this another big fight coming up for you. Just kind of want to get your first thoughts on this Bubba Jenkins Trilogy, how it came together, and how pumped you are to get back in there.
Yeah, trilogy fight, man. My first trilogy fight. It's wild. I guess you got to be in the game for a while to accrue a trilogy fight, right? Um, I'm excited about it. I didn't think initially that I would fight him, a third time, but unless it were in the playoffs. But right after the fight, he just started tagging me in just about everything on the internet. He was writing poetry. He was, he built a new podcast so that he could vent further. And he was tagging me in all of it. So, once somebody starts with me like that, I start firing back. And I guess the PFL liked the back and forth, what we were doing with each other. So that's kind of how it came to be. Just us absolutely shit talking each other on the internet.
Where do you feel like his dislike for you comes from? Because obviously, you two have fought twice before, back and forth battles in both fights. Where do you feel like his dislike for you and, kind of this trolling that he's been doing kind of stems from?
I think he's a jealous little bastard. I think that, it bothers him just my being, I look better than him. I speak better than him, more intelligent than he is. I think it just irks him to his core. We're just fundamentally like two people from two different worlds, Look at his past. I mean, dude got thrown out of high school. Then he was in the national finals in college with probably the most well-respected or one of the most well-respected United States wrestlers ever in Cael Sanderson, and somehow winds up basically getting thrown off the team, leaving the team his senior year. I mean, that doesn't happen ever, really. There has to be he had to have been very, very toxic to have been pushed out of that room after having been in a national championship. When you're Penn State and you got a new coach like that and he's trying to make a splash. So let's face it, like the guy probably doesn't do well with being told the truth to about himself. His ego is pretty big. That's why he doesn't like me, because I say what I need to say, and I think my family does too. He hates it.
And I got to ask you too, because obviously, that term, whenever a trilogy comes up, not even just in MMA, but just in general, there's always that term legacy that comes with it, right? And I feel like there's a lot of fans and pundits out there that are kind of looking at this as like a potential legacy fight for the two of you. Do you see that in any sort of way? Do you agree with that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree to an extent. I think it's a piece of your legacy for sure. I think it would be like a little bit um, of an injustice if you don't look at the whole body of your career as well when you're done with it. But it definitely is a big chapter in in one another's books of our professional fighting careers, and it's important for me. It's important to have the last laugh with this kind of just a piece of shit, in my mind. That I can't allow him to have the last laugh. He's so out of control. If he were to win this fight, I mean, it's like I can't even imagine the kind of shit that would be going on. So, like, he just needs to be shut up.
You and I have spoken now a number of times, over the years in your PFL career and all that. And we've talked a lot about, kind of the personal growth that you've made in and out of the cage, right? So I got to ask you, like, when you look at that last Bubba Jenkins fight earlier this year, what are some of the biggest things that you feel like you've grown with yourself in and out of the cage? And kind of how do you evaluate how that fight played out?
Yeah, I was just talking about this with somebody else as well, and I've learned, like you said, I've grown both as a fighter, I think, over my career, and as a man, just in life. And that I owe it to the people who respect the sport, who follow me, who support me, to be honest and to give it my best. And that fight, man, I have to be honest. Like my head and my heart, they just weren't there in Vegas in the cage. Like I couldn't have given a shit less about the season as it unfolded. And I'm not making excuses as to why I'm not going to go, to those places. I just want to be truthful, and that wasn't me in there, man. Like I think there's a handful of fighters that night that are on the roster that probably would have got their hand raised as well if they were fighting me that night. And it's not something I'm proud of, but it's life, and you got to deal with things all over the place as an athlete, and you got to try to separate it, but it's tough. So I think if you saw, what did I do? I went home and had a few conversations with myself, and I snapped out of that bullshit, and I went and got my balls again. And if you saw the fight with Kudo and the last fight with Braga, like that's two different guys than the guy you saw April with Jenkins. It just is. So I had a reality check. It was one of those, like, you're gonna keep doing this shit or what, man? Because that wasn't it out there that night. And luckily I was able to, recenter, refocus myself, and I'm back, man. I'm back, and I love it.
Is there part of you that, as somebody that's been through this PFL season format a number of times now, is there part of you that's almost kind of burnt out from the format in a way, like in terms of just you want new challenges at this point in your career, or are you still excited about the season format and being in that season?
Well, I think that was unfortunately a part of it, was this notion that I keep to make an analogy, is like, or to create a picture for you guys, what's in my head. Like I climb this mountain every year, and I'm always one of the last guys at the top, and I slip off, and you roll all the way back to the bottom, and you got to climb it again. And it's not an easy climb. And I just felt sorry for myself in the beginning of the year, and it was just like a loser pussy mentality. And I don't mean to be so, but I have to keep it real. Like I got to be honest. And I snapped out of it. I said to myself, like, before the Atlanta fight with Kudo, like, I could have folded, man. That guy hits hard, Kudo. I could have folded easily, but I was like, nah, you're not going out like that. Man up. I love the sport, and I just owed myself more, and I feel like like I said, I'm back now.
Absolutely, man. And I got to ask you too, a little bit about, I want to ask you one more question a little bit about the season format. Like, obviously, as somebody that's been through it a bunch of times, like, are there any significant changes that you feel like need to be made to the format itself? Like, would you encourage more time in between fights? Or what are your kind of thoughts in the season format as somebody that's been through it a bunch of times?
I mean, I want to start by saying that I love the different way they go about having an MMA promotion and how they structure it, like our major sports. I do love that. We only get so many calendar months though in the year, and we have the winter time kind of off, so everything kind of gets pushed into like a 9 month window or so, an 8 month window, and it does tighten up a little bit. It would be cool sometimes to get a little more preparation for certain people. There's certain times during the season where I'm not really sure who I'm going to be competing against, and I only get like 3.5 or 4 weeks to prepare for that person. Um, uh, but I'm a guy that does like to compete really often. Like I want to make money. I want to use fighting as a vehicle to like better my life, my family's life. So I want to compete as frequently as I can while I'm young. That's it. I love that they put us in there consistently. I just maybe if it started just a touch earlier, it would be able to like make a little bit bigger of a gap, and then you could have those longer camps to prepare for that particular individual.
And as somebody that obviously, you have a lot of fight left in you. Obviously, you got this Bubba Jenkins fight coming up. But I got to ask you, too, like, in terms of like your long term future in MMA, eventually, when you stop fighting, could you see yourself potentially like sticking around in terms of like coaching or like starting your own gym or anything like that? Like, what's kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so actually I have my own gym already in my hometown of Islip. It's called Long MMA. It's the second location for Long Island MMA. My coaches and my partners now, that was the first gym that I started at when I began my career. So we opened one together in my hometown. And my plan, yeah, is like, dude, I'm so passionate about MMA. I can never be away from it for too long. I might take tiny little breaks. Everyone can get a little overwhelmed or at times or overstimulated in life by it could be by another person, it could be by your job that you love, it could be from anything. Too much of anything can sometimes make you a little crazy at moments, but I'll always be around, man. I would love to stick around. I'd love to be, man. I don't know exactly yet. I know I'm already coaching people and whatnot. I know that's going to pick up. I know I'll be teaching more at the gym, looking to expand and grow on the business of the gym itself. And then I don't know, I'll see. Like I love being around the promotions and fighting. So maybe I can also, I love the PFL, man. I'd love to be one of those first guys that's like was like one of the pioneers of the league and sticks around, like a Forrest did, or like those guys. So that would be really cool. And I think that um, I have the wherewithal to do that, those types of things as well. I can handle it. So yeah, those conversations. Hopefully, I got a year or two more of competing, and then it'll be Coach Chris.
Couple more questions for me, man. Once again, I really do appreciate the time. It's always great to chat with you and catch up. I want to get your thoughts, like in terms of like psychologically, like what are some of the biggest differences between fighting somebody who obviously you dislike in Bubba Jenkins versus somebody like Kudo or Braga that you don't really have any personal beef with, like psychologically and motivation wise, like what are some of the biggest differences between fighting somebody you don't like versus somebody that you feel indifferent or like?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's like it's kind of it's a deep one because the emotions are so different. Like I genuinely I like Braga, like his dad. Um, I would hang out with them. You know, if we were around, just hanging out at the hotel, I enjoy just having conversations with them. That's tough. What I would say to you is that those are tough sometimes, where it can be a little tough to get going in the beginning of the fight. It's not until you start cracking each other, and then I can like really truly separate it, because the anger takes over, the competitor really takes over. But when it comes to a situation like Bubba, and having fought him a couple times and having just no care for the guy at all, it's about making sure that I work hard enough that I can do the things that I want to do to him in there. And also being in control of that anger and be in control of that aggression. Because if you lose control, you make a one misstep, you zig when you should have zagged. You know, we don't have shins on. We don't have much of a glove on. So you have to hone it. And I've learned to like, you let it out. It's healthy to let it out and to like channel it. But if you get like no control over it, you know, one of those like X-Men Cyclops situations, the goggles come off, anybody, you know, it's just not good. So it's got to be focused. And I think when you can focus it and harness it, that it's definitely a benefit in fighting to have that edge. For me, it is, at least. I want to fight a dude that I don't like, as opposed to fighting somebody that I genuinely do like as a person. Hard to hit people that you think are good people initially.
No doubt about it. And last question for me, man. If Bubba Jenkins is watching this, what's your message to him ahead of your trilogy next month?
Fuck you, Bubba. That's my message. He's disrespectful, and he's going to pay for being disrespectful. He's going to be an example of why you don't do certain shit, and you carry yourself with a little bit of class. And he knows better. He grew up a wrestler, but once in a while, certain guys, man, they need a reminder of you know, what it's about. So he's gonna get it.
I think we'll wrap up right there, man. I appreciate the time, Chris. It's always great to chat with you and catch up and pick your brain a little bit as well. I'll actually be there in Washington, D.C., covering Fight Week and all that. So I'll catch you that week, I'm sure. And thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
You're gonna get some more good sound bites. I got you. Okay.
Have a good one, man. I appreciate the time.
All right,
Thank
man.
you.